would have thought a piece of parchment would be enough to build a strong new nation? Who would have thought the U.S. Constitution could cement a nation for over 200 years? And who would have thought the United States would eventually become the bastion of democracy for the entire world? If you answered our founding fathers, you would be absolutely incorrect. The framers of the Constitution had the same doubts and insecurities as any normal human being. After the Constitutional Convention in 1787, George Washington confided to a friend his fear that the new law of the land wouldn't last beyond 20 years. Despite these fears, the delegates persevered and produced a document that was able to shape and be shaped to fit over 200 years of our nation's history. Think about it. The Constitution of the United States, taken literally, is what constitutes the United States. And what does make up our country? Is it simply a piece of paper that sits behind a glass case in the National Archives in Washington, D.C.? I doubt many of us would agree with that. For while people may refer to the Constitution as a living, breathing document, it is we the people who must serve as its breath. We must realize that each of us has the responsibility to care for that piece of paper. Not literally, but by understanding what it means, and paradoxically defending it so that it may defend us. First, we must understand the concepts our nation was built on. When the founders met at the Constitutional Convention, they wanted to create the perfect government. A government that would endure as long as the idea of democracy survived. You see, in the eyes of our founders, the perfect government would be a government run of the people, for the people, and by the people. But the framers realized that times change, people change, and the government had to be able to change with it. In a stroke of genius, they added the amendment process. This process allows the Constitution to grow with our nation. Thomas Jefferson once said, "Laws and institutions must go hand in hand with the progress of the human mind." Since the people are given such a critical role in the democratic process, the most fundamental responsibility any citizen has is to understand how our Constitution works. Justice Hugo Black was once asked whether he thought most Americans understood the Constitution. Without hesitation, Justice Black responded, "No." Sadly, I must agree with Justice Black. Who would have thought that according to the Roper Center for Public Opinion Research, only 15% of Americans can name freedom of the press as one of the rights protected under our First Amendment? Who would have thought that only 3 in 5 Americans know there are 3 branches of government? In our current debate over First Amendment protection for campaign contributions and controversial artwork, Americans must know the Constitution and live the Bill of Rights, or the value of our freedoms is lost. Unfortunately, the problem is not as simple as a lack of knowledge of the Constitution. It seems more Americans are disillusioned with government than ever before. In the 1996 presidential election, less than half of all eligible voters even bothered going to the polls. This apathy threatens the very foundation of our pillar of democracy. For without people to nurture our Constitution, how long can a simple piece of paper bind our nation together? Through Amendments 15, 19, 24, and 26, America slowly but surely secured her citizens' right to vote. We have the obligation to exercise our voice in government, not only for our benefit and for the benefit of future generations, but also out of respect for those who struggled to secure our rights. Understanding the Constitution includes realizing that the people must be the life force behind it. For if Americans do not truly understand what the Constitution stands for, how will we know when our liberties are being challenged? And how will we be able to muster the conviction to defend our rights? Understanding the Constitution is one of the responsibilities we have as citizens. But it is not enough to understand the Constitution if we do not also have the fortitude to defend it. As James Madison wrote a few years after the Constitution was adopted, the people who are the authors of this blessing must also be its guardians. Their eyes must be ever ready to mark, their voices to pronounce, and their arms to repel or repair aggressions on the authority of their Constitution. You may not be aware of any aggressions on the authority of the Constitution, which Mr. Madison refers to, but assaults on our liberties need not be as blatant as a foreign invasion or even an act of terrorism. The former Supreme Court Justice William O. Douglas wrote, "The challenge to our liberties comes frequently, not from those who consciously seek to destroy our system of government, but from men of good will." Consider the First Amendment. The First Amendment grants us freedom of speech and the right of assembly. Both rights are critical to a true democracy. Most importantly, these rights are granted indiscriminately. The Ku Klux Klan has just the same right of assembly as the Girl Scouts of America. Those who would like to censor the KKK in the interest of democracy must remember that the true test of democracy lies in defending the rights of those we don't agree with, even those who hold views as reprehensible as the Klan's. Justice Douglas realized that because the greatest danger to our liberty comes not from the extraordinary, but rather the mundane, we must constantly be on our guard to defend our Constitution. The dramatic changes that have occurred over the course of time make this no easy task. Our founders tried to anticipate change by creating a wonderfully elastic document that could evolve with the times. But who would have thought that one day we'd be able to communicate with anyone in the world from the comforts of our own home? And who would have thought the internet could make us question our own Bill of Rights? Technology has made us reevaluate the Constitution itself. The Supreme Court found the Communications Decency Act in 1996, which attempted to ban anything deemed offensive on the internet, in direct violation of our freedom of speech. The government is now questioning whether email should be protected under our Fourth Amendment, which grants our right to privacy. A delicate balance must be drawn between protecting our individual liberties and adapting them to the needs of a changing society. Wendell Phillips once said, "Eternal vigilance is the price of liberty." It is a testament to the framers' foresight that the Constitution is more relevant than ever in today's high-tech society. However, that means that we, as citizens, must be more vigilant than ever in protecting our Constitution so that it can continue to protect us. Who would have thought the most pressing issue facing Americans today would be understanding what constitutes free speech? Who would have thought a piece of parchment would still be relevant in a society moving toward digital paper? And who would have thought the Constitution would become as much a part of us as we are a part of it.
The time for